Okay, I call meeting in order and welcome everybody to the July 27th, 2026 council work session. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councillor Dowd,
Here.
Councillor Waterman,
Here.
Councillor Fisher,
Here.
Councillor Lefteridge,
Here.
Councillor Nunnally, Councillor Walker,
Here.
Councillor Gabrielle,
Here.
Councillor Blank,
Here.
and Mayor Hunter.
Here, we have one item on the work session agenda this evening, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan 90% progress update. Ms. Preble.
Yep, Mayor and Council will turn it over to Mike Terrell, our consultant, for a report.
Before we get to Mike, real quick. Sorry. So at our 60% meeting, there was questions asked about donations, and I said I'd follow up on them. So our software program does allow us to add a prompt. So at checkout, somebody could prompt, yes, they would like to make a donation, and then they would be able to add in what they would like to donate to the scholarship fund. But it wouldn't be like a drop-down menu. The software doesn't allow for that. And the other thing is it doesn't do round up. So, and most of our programs end in 0, so it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense even if it did. So there is the possibility of utilizing that. I would need to talk with Jonna and Jared about if there needs to be policy around it. I don't think it is because we already have a scholarship, but it's something that we need to vet internally. The other thing too is we could create, if somebody just wanted to make a donation, we could do a point of sale button that they would be able to log into their account and go directly to a point of sale and do the same thing. They would be able to hit the prompt and be able to put in whatever amount that they like to donate, and then the system would enter it that way. Our system does require, though, that you have a account through Civic Rec, so it's simple to do, and our staff can walk them through. But that would be the one caveat if somebody was trying to make an anonymous donation. It does require an account, but if somebody really wanted to do that, we have a means to at least take it in within the office. But did want to follow up on that because it was a question that was asked.
Thank you. And the account, they would have to create an account to pay their own. So they're not creating an account to do the extra donation. They'd already have an account because they're paying for their own enrollment basically in the program.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So if they're enrolling in one of our programs, they would have an account. This would be as you're going through, and we have waivers and stuff like that. As you're checking those, it would be just a prompt within there. Would you like to make a donation to the scholarship fund? Some language about what it does, what it serves, and then they could click yes or no. Yes would require, hey, fill this part out, and then it would add it on to the final bill before they made payment.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So with that, very excited. We're at the 90% point with our master plan. We have Mike Terrell here tonight to present where we're at with the 90% plan, some of the things, the revisions that they made since the 60% plan, and then of course at the end take any questions or feedback to move this to a point we can bring it back at 100% and possibly for adoption. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Great, thanks a lot, Chad. Mayor, members of the council, I'm really excited to be here with this 90%. What we're going to do tonight is run through kind of how we got to 90% and then hit some high points. Thank you. So we'll start out with what is a Parks and Recreation Plan? The previous plan was adopted in 2006. This is the 2026 proposed plan. It's a strategic long-range guide that outlines how the city of Kalispell will develop, maintain, and manage its parks and open spaces, trails, recreation facilities, and programs over the next 20 years. The plan is critical to ensuring that Kalispell's park system continues to meet the evolving needs of the community today and into the future. How the Parks and Recreation Plan aligns with other city plans. It implements the comprehensive plan goals for livability, growth, and open space, informs the parks element of the plan, delivers the parks and recreation facilities aligned with land use planning, coordinates priority connections from the Trails 2040 plan, supports walking, biking, and park to neighborhood connectivity, and coordinates capital investment, maintenance, and grant funding. Kind of a brief overview of the community that you're all, I'm certain, are very familiar with. Current population, a little over 33,000. Projected population in 2045, about 54,392. Right now, the city limits about 12.64 square miles, 12.64 square miles. The growth policy boundaries about 78.1 square miles. So quite a bit of area for the city to expand in. We looked in the plan at 4 quadrants, the northwest quadrant being quadrant 1, northeast quadrant being 2, southwest 3, and the southeast being quadrant 4. And so you'll see that within the plan as we look at those quadrants where the growth is going as well. We had an extensive community engagement process. We did stakeholder interviews back a little over a year ago in July 7th through the 10th of 25. We did park inventories, had an open house on July 8th with a picnic in the park and ice cream social. Did a community survey that was out for the community to provide feedback over 2 months. We had over 1,000 participants. Open house number 2 was August 19th, again, picnic in the park on August 20th. Had a representative from the team at a fair booth. The open house on open house number 3, November 25th. Council presentation on January 12th, and then we had open house number 4 on January 13th of this year. And we're looking for plan adoption later this summer. Through the community engagement, we got quite a bit of feedback, and these are some of the key comments that we got during the process from question 12 and 13. And I would say in the final plan, we'll have an appendice that has all of the community engagement survey information and every comment that we got from all the 1,000 participants will be included in the final document. Some concerns were homeless issues, no pickleball courts, physical disability, concerns about access, not enough trails to enjoy safely. I used to walk at Woodland Park daily, but no longer do so for safety reasons. It's important to me for the summer programs for the kids that are out of school, give them something to do in educational and guidance. I think this will help keep some out of trouble. And so these are just kind of a sampling. Again, in the final draft, in the final plan for adoption, it'll have everything, every comment that we received. One of the things that I think is important to point out is that the comments about the park system for Kalispell are really overwhelmingly positive. Really love the parks, love the trails. Just some updated equipment at the parks we already have, well done with Lawrence. Facilities that are designed in ways that people with disabilities can fully access. Pickleball comes up off and on. Splash pads, larger ice sports facility, improve existing trails and bike paths, make walking a safe option, indoor water park, volleyball courts, both indoor and outdoor. And then some of the concerns and question, just maintain what we have. And that comment is really kind of an underlying theme that we got from a lot of folks. Homeless issue, not feeling safe at existing parks or trails. And keep in mind that this is from early of 2025, so things may have changed over time. More restrooms everywhere, please, especially somewhere on Parkline. Splash pads and park equipment, bike trails need maintenance, blacktop is rough riding, more security officers. Again, are there any specific parks, trails, or community spaces you would like to see be further developed in Kalispell? Many parks need updated playgrounds. Parkline Trail, the original plans called for a splash pad and other community-based features. It would also be good to incentivize the mall and the businesses lining the trail and reconfigure, rebuild, or relocate. Indoor soccer facility, add a free splash pad somewhere, staff the pool for more hours, fix the water levels of Woodland, and maintain clear the ice in the winter. Indoor sports facility and community center is needed. And a comment that we got from a gal during the process, I love swimming with my friends. I think it would be very, very fun. Again, a summary of findings that we got, and this formed the basis that we created the plan from. Maintain what we have, increase awareness and communication throughout the community of what programs are available, connect the system, work on trail connectivity, targeted new facilities, show where there's strong demand for either indoor swimming, interest in community or indoor fitness centers, expand programs, offer diverse age-inclusive programs, improve parks, replace aging playgrounds, upgrade restrooms for year-round use, and enhance tree and weed maintenance, access for all, environmental, increase native planting and habitat protection, and then public safety. Where we are building on success, one of the things we wanted to do is as a baseline, what has happened in the park system since 2012. And so there's been a lot of great things and a lot of improvements have been recognized by the community. Lawrence Park Playground, Phase 1, 2, and 3, and the climbing boulder as a project that featured a collaboration with stakeholder groups. Thompson Park Playground, Woodland Park Playground, Cottonwood Park Playground, Hawthorne Park improvements, and the Begg Park Dog Park. Restroom improvements include Woodland Park and Lions Park, and then improvements at the ongoing improvements at the pool. And so one of the things we want to look at in terms of a park system is what are the level of service standards and it's a type of performance measurement that we look at in comparison to other communities as well. And so how are the number of facilities, number of acreage compared to other communities? And so that's one of the things that we looked at. In some areas, Kalispell has a higher level of service than its adjacent communities. Some places a little bit lower. And so what we're trying to do with this is identify what is the right spot for Kalispell. As we plan for 20 years in the future, this level of service looks at attainable goals. With large population growth projections, we can look at similar sized cities for reference on what we may need to see. One of the important things is that its level of service is not a one size fits all. We target it for the things that we hear from the community and that are achievable. So where we are, access, distribution, amenity needs. Again, in the northern service area, you can see the dark green is where the current parks are. And then also in the south service area as well. And so we see what we're showing with the lighter green is a 1/4 mile service area around those parks where people could walk to those parks. So you can see that we've got some gaps. And so those are the things that we look at in terms of as growth happens, how do we fill those gaps so that we provide an even level of service for the community for all the residents of Kalispell. So in terms of creating a vision and establishing goals, we looked at a vision which we presented to you when we talked about when I discussed the 60%. The park system, a thriving, inclusive, and connected Kalispell where parks, trails, and recreation inspire health, happiness, economic vitality, environmental stewardship for generations to come. We envision a future where every person, regardless of age, ability, and background, can access safe, beautiful, and well-maintained parks, trails, programs that celebrate Kalispell's landscape, heritage, community spirit, and economic opportunity. One of the things I want to point out here is this vision and these goals are really building on the great history of Kalispell parks. There's tremendous amount of historic buy-in and community engagement in the development of parks like Woodland and Lions Park and Lawrence Park over time, and that's what we're looking to build on with this park plan. So looking at the goals, establishing the first goal is maintain and enhance existing parks and facilities through proactive, data-driven stewardship. Number 2, ensure access to parks, playgrounds, and recreational programs by prioritizing underserved communities and universal design principles. So those first 2 is like maintain what we've got and then provide, prioritize access to get folks that have disabilities into playgrounds and into the parks. And then number 3, create safe, welcoming, and comfortable parks for all visitors. Number 4, plan for growth and evolving needs through community-focused strategies obtained from public engagement. Number 5, recreational programs delivery for all Kalispell residents. Number 6, secure, diverse, stable funding to support park expansion, maintenance, and recreation programming. Number 7, leverage parks to promote health, community, and community cohesion and economic vitality. Again, these are building on some of the great things that are already happening through recreation programming, events at Depot Park, and others. Number 8, preserve and celebrate Kalispell's cultural, natural, and historic identity through park design and programming. And number 9, parks and recreation planning for the future. Goal 10, maintain a high-performing, adequately staffed Parks and Recreation Department through professional development, technology, and strategic growth. Where we are going, we're looking at establishing a long-term direction for Kalispell Parks and Recreation Department and building on direction that came out of the community engagement survey. So these are the strategic parks and recreation priority. Again, we're building from what we heard from the community, establishing the vision and the goals, and then we're refining these into strategic priorities. And the first one is maintain what we have. And through asset management planning, looking at what the facilities we have and plan for maintenance over time, so that we're planning, we're being proactive in planning, not reactive. And there's a lot of, and again, when I say these things, it's not that that's not happening now, it's just that as we prioritize things, this is what needs to be prioritized. Maintenance and facility reinvestment, because facilities and parks are finite resources. Over time, they need to be maintained and replaced. Establish maintenance standards and service levels, operational efficiency and sustainability, maintain safe, accessible, and welcoming parks. And many of these themes carry through into the other strategic priorities. So, number 2, update parks and playgrounds for safety and accessibility. System-wide inclusive playground program is to, as we replace playgrounds through a strategy of replacement, make sure that they meet they're inclusive for all ages and abilities, improve accessibility throughout community parks, expand inclusive recreation and community partnerships, improve accessibility information and public awareness so folks can know where there is an ADA space that they can access the Woodland Park playground for accessibility, so that knowledge gets out so people can use it to enjoy the park. Number 3, safe, welcoming, and well-maintained parks, improve park safety through design. Things like strategic lighting improvements would be one of them through design. Implement a park ranger and park ambassador program to have more eyes in the parks, strengthen public safety partnerships, and promote community stewardship. The more folks we have from the community in parks, the more likely that folks can feel safe and welcomed. Number 4, strategic system growth, access, and master planning. As we talked, previously identified some gaps where we don't have parks and in future growth areas. One of the things that is important, you've got some really excellent community parks, Woodland and Lawrence, and a property, Northwest Fields. These facilities either need to be planned to begin with or need an update to their master planning because there's been changes in the way the community looks at these parks like Woodland and Lawrence and how they might be improved to better serve the community with the limited resources that we have. Looking to expand the park system and access, again in the northwest and northeast quadrants of the city, there's a need for additional park facilities, coordinate growth and capital investment, strengthen the parkline trail and connections For instance, a connection to Woodland Park is important. Woodland Park Master Plan. One of the advantages of having a master plan for a park like Woodland Park is that you have a strategy that you can plan for. You can start to identify where you're going to make investments and plan for those over time. And that's one of the steps to take to say, okay, we have a Woodland Park master plan. We have a 10 or a 15-year plan for how we're going to improve Woodland Park, either through looking at pond rehabilitation or trail rehabilitation, and start to prioritize those over time. Trail access and connectivity, wayfinding and community identity. Got a great system of wayfinding and community identity right now, but that needs to extend into the parks as well. Celebrate history, culture, and natural resources, and then trail-oriented redevelopment. I know trail-oriented redevelopment because the Parkline Trail is a great catalyst project for redevelopment. Continuing on with that is important. Number 5, build on the success of Kalispell's recreational programs. There's great and very successful recreation programs. Enhance 4-season programming. That's one of the things that we heard from a lot of people is winters are long here. We need to have some activities that we can engage our children and adults in. Pilot new recreation opportunities as they're identified. Expand recreation access throughout the community. One of the things that's important is that there are portions of the community, especially if they don't necessarily have parks, is that they might not have equal access to recreation facilities, say in the Northwest and Northeast. Enhance and activate existing parks, get activities going on in existing parks, strengthen partnerships and inclusive recreation, sustain high quality recreation services for the community, which is a really great foundation for rec. Number 6, strengthen financial sustainability, sustainable funding, strategic investment and partnerships. Integrate strategic financial planning, which has been ongoing as well. Evaluate a Together Kalispell Partnership initiative based on Together Spokane Partnership. You should take a look at Together Spokane. It's a really great collaboration between the school district and the Parks Department. And already Kalispell's school district and the Parks Department have great collaboration in terms of sharing facilities. Those facilities are under stress in terms of a lot more need than there are facilities. Expand funding opportunities, strengthen strategic partnerships, monitor financial performance and cost recovery. Partnerships for community impact. Again, this is an ongoing theme. Expand partnerships, activate parks through placemaking and programming, creating programs that get people in the parks in various neighborhoods, not just Woodland and Depot Park and Lawrence Park. Build destination parks and community events. You've got a destination park under construction right now with Ashley Creek, which is a really important addition to the park system. And then celebrate community investment. One of the things that you can do to engage the community is when you open a new playground, something that you're going to do anyway, is celebrate that. Get the community out and the neighborhood out to have a ribbon cutting to get kids on the playground. Number 8, preserve natural and cultural identity, protect natural resource, celebrate culture and community. Great ponds like at Dry Bridge Park and at Woodland Park, bringing the great natural environment that Kalispell lives in, from the mountains to the valley and the lake, into the community, and celebrating those. And then integrated planning and interdepartmental coordination. One of the things that has to happen and continue to happen is coordinating park planning with land use and the growth of the community. Because as annexations occur, not only does sewer and water need to be extended to meet those needs, but also the park system needs to meet the needs of the community in that direction as well. Invest in organizational excellence, develop and sustain high-performing department, support training and leadership, invest in technology. We were just talking about autonomous mowers. One of the things to look at is how you leverage the resources that you have so that you can take advantage of opportunities in terms of technology. And then consider establishment of a park advisory or a park advocacy committee to help get the word out to the community of all the great things that the Parks Department is working on and all those initiatives so that the community really can understand what great resources and parks are available to them. And then number 11, this is the last one, mobile recreation program. One of the things that we notice as we're going through the process is that as the community is growing to the north, there's a lot of homeowner association parks up in the north, and there's not as much access to parks and recreation up in the north end of town. So one of the ways to provide services, recreation services to parts of the community that aren't necessarily accessing recreation services is a community center rec program that is mobile, that gets them out in the community. One of the things you can do is collaborate with local businesses for sponsorships, coordinate with the HOA parks, as I noted, to bring programs to neighborhoods and continue to expand collaborations with Kalispell Public Schools. So where are we going? The strategic projects that we've identified, Woodland Park Master Plan to plan for the future, the next 50, 100 years of Woodland Park, Lawrence Park Master Plan as well, Aquatic Facility Master Plan as the aquatic center ages and is maintained and kept up to date. There's from the community looking for additional resources like maybe an additional pool, indoor pools and things like that, but looking at what types of facilities might the community need as it grows for aquatics facilities and master planning, and then what upgrades might need to happen at the current aquatic facility. And then community recreation center study, what that could include is an incremental look at what studies have been done already by Discover Kalispell. There was a previous study done for a community center and rec center, and maybe combining that into looking at a validation of those previous documents, and then getting a group of stakeholders together that might have an interest in collaborating and moving that forward. And so that might be an initial take where you validate what previously had been looked at and then move forward with maybe some collaborations and stakeholders. And the system-wide playground replacements, which are ongoing, that's something that needs to be done as well. Another initiative that we think that is really important is Stillwater Blueway, a water trail. Take advantage of the natural environment. It's really the resources there, just improving access, put-ins and take-out areas along the Stillwater so that we can have a different type of recreational experience as well. And then the Northwest Trail, the Northwest Fields. You have a piece of property in the Northwest that is available for development, and then start looking at master planning that to meet the growing needs of the community in terms of fields and parks in that northwestern portion. So how do we get there? Maintenance first, looking at cash in lieu, parks in lieu, funding priorities, how we prioritize that, grants for targeted projects, and then special improvement district is an option that potentially should be investigated. Kalispell can directly fund aquatic centers, indoor multi-court facilities, athletic facilities through a special improvement district, either voter option. So that's one of the ways that some of these facilities that the community has expressed interest in could be achieved. And then again, user fees, pay to play, so that you balance those use. And then, as Chad was talking about, if you have a scholarship fund, to try and create an even playing field. And so and looking at others like strategic partnerships, how you leverage the creativity of the Kalispell community to really create facilities that everybody can use. Administration and management, staffing projections and growth. One of the things that we've looked at, and it'll come up a little bit later, is as the system grows, so does the support for maintaining and operating the system needs to grow. Things that really will help the department in terms of organization initiatives, asset management, in refining that. City facilities maintenance, balancing that, because the Parks Department not only takes care of parks, but they also take care of city facilities. Balancing, and streamlining site plan review, which is another Parks Department responsibility. And then looking at grant pursuits for targeted projects. For instance, looking at improvements at Woodland Park. Partnerships, and then again, the Special Improvement District, how that might be managed. And then maintenance efficiencies. One of the things what we did early last year is sat down with the maintenance folks in the maintenance bay and said, hey, tell us how things are going. There's a tremendous resource, a lot of experience and dedication and passion in the maintenance folks. Looking for maintenance efficiencies is an important thing that can come from the maintenance personnel as well. And then recreation, sustain, expand, and look at that cost recovery balance. This is just a really quick overview of the current organization, just for reference. And then one of the things that we looked at is current staffing is in the second column for a current population of 33,000. And then as we go to a population of 54,000 in 2045, that's going to effectively double the amount of folks that the Parks and Recreation Department needs to serve. And so planning for that growth over time is really something to take a look at. And it's, again, it needs to be crafted so that the staffing levels support Kalispell's goals and needs. But what we've included is some notes in terms of the staffing levels recommended by the National Recreation and Parks Association, which is the third column. So looking at that, it gives you kind of a baseline of understanding of what the targets might be as you're making staffing decisions down the road. So with that, I'll open up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions first? Mr. Dowd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had a question, actually. You brought something up here in one of your last slides about how Parks and Rec also cares for city buildings and property, right? I know, like, when we have a vehicle that gets maintained at the central garage, it gets charged back to that specific department. Do you guys charge back to, like, whatever department's compound that you're servicing?
No, all that funding just comes out of the general fund. But no, it's not supported in the same way the central garage is supported as far as funding.
Gotcha. I was just thinking that it might be good to maybe not charge it back, but actually track that just to see how many hours of park maintenance versus city maintenance that you're doing.
Yeah, I think we could potentially do that. Track our staff time that goes in investing into, whether it's a specific project that our staff is doing or that we're overseeing a contract for. But generally, like I said, it just comes out of the general fund, and it's part of the presentation that we do every year as far as the city hall or city facilities budget.
Thanks.
Mr. Leffridge.
First, I just want to say I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. It's a comprehensive document, but my ask before final adoption is pretty narrow. I would like to see a priority list with timing and with numbers. As a parent of young kids who use the park facilities on a daily basis, I view parks as essential infrastructure for our community. We just went through the water, sewer facilities plans and the long term. And one of the things that was very clear in there is as Kalispell is growing, here are the things that need to be replaced. Here's when we want to do them. Here's how much it's going to cost. And we didn't allocate funds to that, but we identified those things, and it gives us a matrix for where we're going to go with this essential infrastructure. I don't see that in here. I see a lot of good ideas, good goals, good concepts, but in terms of actionable plans, if I, as a city council member, and we as a council wanted to invest in parks, how do we do that? Where do we put those funds, and what are those things? So I would, I look at page 86, for example, when we're looking at the common deficiencies across the parks, and we're ranking the condition of our parks. We have 2 poor baseball and softball courts, 2 poor basketball courts, 10 poor picnic table shelters, 8 poor playgrounds. What are those facilities? Where are they? How much would it cost to replace those things? And how can we, as a council and a community, prioritize those things, those deferred maintenance, in order to make that happen? And that's on 2 levels. One, in terms of the maintenance, that's our number one, making sure that our parks are in good shape moving forward. And then 2, we also have the 7 large capital plans, the 7 large goals: Woodland Park, Lawrence Park, the River Trail, the aquatics facility, all of those things. And you talk about that in greater detail in terms of what those next steps are. But again, I would love to see more specificity.
Mr. Fisher.
I totally agree, excuse me, with those comments. I think serving as a Parks and Rec director for years for the county, Parks is always like the bastard stepchild. It gets any money that's left over. It gets anything that they can come up with to improve a facility or even enhance a facility. And I think this is lacking. I think it's lacking exactly what Mr. Leftridge said in a capital outlay program to actually get there. I know we talk about grant writers. We talk about land and water conservation funds. We talk about community involvement. But what we really need to see is, just like we see with city sewer and water, is this long-term capital outlay program. And even if it's something that has to go to the voters, then we have the definitive answer. But we have to know what this community is asking for in public comment. They're not only asking for the aquatic center, they're asking for a gymnasium or a civic center type facility. I think we're lacking in giving them those numbers that we could seek private investors or go to a vote with. I totally agree with your comments that it's just, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I know that a lot of work went into this. I've done a couple of these. But I think we can do better in this 10% that's left in setting some, council may turn it down. I don't know my fellow council members on how they would feel about setting aside some dollars to truly invest in this as we do everything else. But kids are pretty dang important. Keeping them busy is pretty important. We all complain about Kalispell Cruise and kids nothing to do, and adults too, for that matter. And then we don't really invest in it as I feel we should. So I totally back my fellow council members' comments. I'd like to see a deeper dive into some of those things. It may get turned down, don't know. But I think we're lacking, we're not keeping up, we're not setting, we get to 50,000 people and we have the same amount of recreation directors, if I saw this right, as 60 to 110. That's probably not even accurate. I mean, if we're growing that big, it's going to take a huge investment, and I think the plan needs to spell out some of those capital outlay investments better.
Mr. Warren.
Again, thank you for a comprehensive plan. Sort of had some, just following up on some of those comments of where the direction is, and I guess this really goes to Chad. I mean, I see that one of the things that we have a lot of in the plan is that we'll need a philanthropic partner or a partner out there. Is the idea that the advisory committee is able to pull that together, or who's taking that? Who would be able to take that lead of the, if there is seeking a philanthropic partner? Just because looking at the landscape here, like we mentioned the chamber a lot, but the chamber isn't necessarily focused on all of our parks, and we don't have like a community foundation here in Kalispell that's appealable. So do you have thoughts or strategies, or does it use the...
So we've always look for opportunities. And so when stuff presents itself, we as a team will, try to work with that person, individual, corporation, or whatever, in order to bring them in as a partner to our programs. So it exists now. The idea of having an advisory board or an advocacy board would be to strengthen that. Somebody that can go advocate for us, something that is very difficult for a municipality, a government agency to go do. So the idea would be to utilize members of the community to, do these outreaches, do those celebrations of success that we've had, and also be able to make those connections to the community members that could, add, whether it's to a park project or maybe to parkland dedication and those things, and take advantage. I know Councilman Fishers has extensive experience. When he was a director, he did a lot of work trying to get some foundation underneath a gymnasium for the valley. And so he has a lot of connections, but being able to use some kind of advocacy for that seems appropriate. But currently, we try to do that within. It's just that component of going to ask as a government agency is very difficult to do. So that's why we think that having that component added to our department would be advantageous.
That seems to be the success in the Together Spokane, is a little bit of that sort of support of how to use advocacy, but have some third party. I mean, that was in looking at the Together Spokane, it seemed like there was some pretty large fundraising or people being able to coordinate that community support along with, again, we're government agencies, we're not fundraising agencies, but how do you broaden that support?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that kind of led us down this road was the experience of the Kalispell Public Schools in terms of their bond and their levy. We had a conversation with the superintendent on how he worked with his board to get the word out to be successful. And so that's one of the things is we kind of look at either an advocacy or an advisory board as kind of a force multiplier for the staff. You get 10 people who are really committed to parks. Those are 10 people out in the community that leverage Chad's time. So yeah, absolutely. And that's what happened in Spokane, both with the schools and the Parks Department too.
To me, it just seems like in that one panel that just compares us with Helena and Butte, it would be sort of nice to have a column that sort of talks about like what that admin looks like, whether it's an advisory, whether there's a philanthropic partner that's really there. It would be helpful to know in that comparison chart as well, what's working in other communities and not. And then on funding, and I just sort of open this up to council of things to consider. I mean, I do think that we have a couple of funding options that were there, but another one that can be utilized is sometimes like using like a 5% off of our building permits. Like we could start putting some other funds from permits or something like that into Parks and Lieu.
I think
To be
state
able-
law prohibits building permit fees from being used. Is that correct?
I'd have to double check it. I'm not sure.
I think so, but go ahead. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I've talked a little bit to Jared about it. I mean, so I do think that it is something possible. I just sort of, just to look at how do we also internally, not expecting for fundraising to help do things, to set aside things for the maintenance and for larger projects. That could be something, definitely want to make sure it's in state law. But just seeing if there's other resources there, because going out to levies is challenging. If done strategically, it can be successful, but I think that also some of the larger things here, which are maintenance and ongoing, we might want to look at some other ways to be able to help, again, build out that Parks and Lieu funding. And then I guess the other thing was just a gap of user groups. And this is a little self-interested, dog parks. I mean, I know that the dog park group, when I've talked to them, have been really active. They would like to see more dog parks. But I didn't really see that anywhere in the plan. And then the other user group, which I really saw was missing for Woodland Park, again, was the skateboarders. Because we do have a skateboarding facility there, and there seems to be a really active interest within, when I go and talk to that community, of seeing expansion. Is that something that was not seen in our public outreach, or those two?
We really didn't see a lot of feedback in terms of we need another dog park or we need another additional skateboard park. And that it could be, we tried various different levels of community engagement, either open houses or, the survey and things like that. And so sometimes you miss a user group. It may be that there are additional skateboarders out there that we miss. They need an additional facility, but, that's kind of the nature of community engagement, unless there's a lot of what we saw was people were generally happy with the parks that they have. They just want greater maintenance. So that, I think, as you get a chance to read through the survey comments and things, that's one of the key things that we heard.
Well, again, thank you for doing all that outreach and compiling all that information. I know that that's not so easy, but it's comprehensive in that sense. But those were the one groups that I noted, so.
Ms. Walker.
Yeah, just echo the comments. I think that I agree with all that. I think in order to even really think about funding types, we really need more numbers. We need to know how much it's going to cost, to know what kind of funding we need to go after. So I definitely think we need some more specificity on how much the maintenance is going to cost to upgrade our maintenance plans and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, the plan's got a lot of work. It's got a lot of good points. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we need some better numbers, I think.
Ms. Gabrielle?
Thank you, Your Honor. Chad, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I don't know if you would know this number off the top of your head, but do you happen to know the percentage of programming that we offer for the over 55 age range versus the under, so the kids versus the over 55 groups?
So we have a couple partner programs, but specifically, we do not run anything in that age group currently. We used to do that prior to 2008, but with the economy at the time and having to make some budget decisions, we felt that Flathead County had an opportunity to continue serving that community. But we've talked internally about how to bring some of that back. But again, currently we're leveraging partners and bringing them into our space in order to do so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I agree with what Dustin was saying earlier, but almost the opposite of it, that we aren't targeting that group enough. I think we're targeting kids for sure, and I love our kids programming, but I wonder if that isn't a place to be looking, because our aging population is growing and growing and growing, and they're the ones that vote, and they're the ones that are spending their tax dollars on programming. So it might be worth a look, and I don't mean immediately, but just think about it down the road. I absolutely love the Stillwater River Trail thing. And I was thinking, as some of the others were speaking, about maybe we could be looking at partnering with the private sector like we did with kids sports, even like the county or whoever, I can't remember, with Pine Grove Pond, exactly how all that came together with Robin Street donating the land and working with everyone on that. But then the other thing I wondered about as a possibility for the philanthropy piece, maybe this would be a spot where we could be talking with our previous mayors that are still out there and asking them to take the leadership reins, and working with a committee, maybe being honorary chair members or something, and then bring in a Tag and Vine or a Colleen Unterreiner or somebody who's a certified fundraising executive to come in and work with that group to train them on how to make those asks. So I just think that it's going to continue to be an issue with funding, and as we add more people, that'll help, but I don't think it's going to help fast enough to keep up with where we need to get the funding for the programming, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a few questions. I want to echo support for Mr. Leffridge's idea in terms of kind of spelling out some of the costs and prioritizing them as part of the plan moving forward, so we have some idea when we look at budgets and stuff of kind of where we need to go with that. Though I recognize too, like with the recreation center, you know, we're putting money to figure out what that's going to cost. So we don't have some of those numbers, but certainly some of the playground upgrades and that sort of thing, we should be able to, I would think, put some numbers together. I really appreciated the emphasis on accessibility in our parks. I know that's important. And we did have a public comment earlier about the Dan Johns Fields and striping and signage for ADA accessibility and that sort of thing. Is that something we're waiting on, just kind of funding of when we can get to that, or what's the status on?
Yeah, so it's between staffing and making sure that we're compliant. So obviously, people have ideas and what should happen, but we also want to go through the building department because they are our ADA people, make sure that what we're doing is compliant. So we looked at this, I believe, last fall, winter, making sure the areas that had been identified previously were appropriate, and then working through striping and what is required for spacing and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing process. First was replacing signs and poles that were missing, and again, just working through the process. So it takes a little time. Do it as funds are available and as we have time with our staff.
And then with regards to Woodland Park and kind of fishing access pond and the plan. So I know we're a big part of this is calling for a Woodland Park master plan. I also know we kind of had, I think, last time discussion on this, that because of the climate changing with the ice on the, you know, that's not viable long term, and so the fishing pond kind of made sense, and we have Fish, Wildlife, and Parks who's kind of committed some of that match money. I guess my concern is it'll take now several years to get a Woodland Park master plan in place, and if, we're doing that step first and then kind of the fishing pond, and then we do kind of a feasibility for that after the master plan, we're looking at years now down the road to get this fishing pond. Whereas we kind of have the money now that we can access. I know we need to do a hydrology study, there's steps that we have to do before, but I'd almost hate to kind of miss the opportunity waiting for the master plan first when we know it's something we want to do. Can we proceed with that without kind of taking that master plan step first?
So we do serve you. So if that's council's desire, I mean, obviously, when we've had previous discussions, the concern was there's been thoughts and ideas, not necessarily by council, but by community members. And when we started the process, the concern we had with Mike was, it's a beautiful property. There's lots of amenities within it. And what the community has said is they want all these things, and with all that land, sometimes people see it as a means to offer another amenity within. So we wanted to make sure that whatever happens to the park, we felt that it needed to represent the heritage of the park, what it served, and what would be appropriate. I don't know that the pond fits the appropriateness part. It's just when we talked about it internally, it just made sense to do a master plan for the park, what amenities are appropriate, what things aren't appropriate, and what direction the council would like to see it go. I do think the pond does need something, whether it's looking at what it is now and how to manage that. But I think, like we've stated before, we just don't have the winters that we used to. And so getting the ice to be 4 inches thick before we put our staff or machinery out there just doesn't happen. Yes, people go down there, the ice isn't as thick. We leave out our warning signs to protect ourselves, but it's a fact right now that it's not producing ice thick enough. So if council wish to pursue that, obviously we have a great partner with FWP, and they have a lot of expertise. And I know through conversations with them in the past that there's even the private sectors would be excited to participate. So I think there is, it could be one of those wins that we start out with, and knowing that council supports this moving forward. However, maybe future amenities or future design work would be held off till a master plan. Maybe that would be appropriate. But again, personally, I can see council's position and the reason why that we would want to start looking at that sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my approach would be to, if we can do some simultaneous work with the master plan, and maybe that final trigger, we wait until the master plan to make sure it's, in line with everything. But sometimes, I do get a little frustrated with the slow pace of bureaucracy. I see it with everything we do. There's a reason for it, certainly. But I would hate to wait years down the road before we even kind of start on the process, when it's something I think there's general sense that, this would be a good idea, and knowing that it'll take years even when we start to get moving on. So if there's anything we can kind of do that's kind of simultaneous and kind of move things along, so that we're not waiting many, many years for that, I think would be great. So, do you have a comment on that, Ashad?
No.
Okay, I have a few more items. The HOA park standards, I know last meeting we kind of talked about those as, something that might be looked at as needed to make sure that we're getting some more uniformity in terms of these private pocket parks that are going in with developments. Is that still kind of, on the schedule, is something we want to do and in process?
Yes, absolutely. We've updated language in this version of the plan. I've already gotten some feedback on, because it was posted to the community, I've already gotten some feedback on some fine tuning of that. We'll continue to work on those standards, so that make sure that, our discussions today have been, creating those standards so that there's certainty and flexibility. And so that's the whole challenge, is to create, this is what the expectation is, but flexibility to make sure it works both for developers and for the community as well. So we're continuing to work on that.
Great, thank you. This mobile recreation van idea, that sounds very interesting. I can see the kind of thinking and the need for it. I'm curious if we've seen it, if there's examples of it being a success in other communities of our size, because I can see it being very successful. I can also see it not being very successful. And before we kind of invest in a vehicle and staffing and wrapping and all this, I'd want some assurance there that this is something that's going to produce returns in terms of participation.
There's a number of communities that have implemented mobile recreation. One of the ones that I'm most familiar with was Lewiston, Idaho. Got a retrofitted bus from the school district and uses mobile recreation. So very small community getting rec programs out. One of the there's some really great dovetails with mobile recreation in terms of, summertime lunch programs and things like that as well. So there's opportunities to run parallel with this system with current programs, and again, partnerships with the school district as well. I think it's important to kind of keep in mind how, as a city, this Kalispell delivers services to those portions of the city that don't necessarily have a park, especially like in the north. One of the ways you can do that to show that the city is providing these services is to have a mobile recreation program that gets to, either provides it to a school district facility or working with an HOA, potentially on an HOA facility, so that there's visibility. You know, we're paying our taxes, we're getting recreation services in our community, we're being visible out there and providing those services to those children or adults that might take advantage of those rec services in those parts of the city. So,
Yeah, no, I understand the reasoning behind it. Makes sense. One comment, and I'm not necessarily looking for a change on this, but just a comment, because looking through kind of the assessment of different parks and things, and ranking of poor, adequate, and so on. The disc golf at Lawrence, I know kind of maybe overall it's it's designated as adequate, but having used that and not being a disc golfer, but for the first time and maybe the last time, but that not that it was fun, but I don't know that I'll be doing it a lot. Is the signage, like you didn't know where the next place was to go, you didn't know the route, there was no map, there were, I mean, I think there used to been, but it had deteriorated. So I would say the signage, even if maybe overall the route is adequate, the signage itself is quite poor. So there may be kind of nuances there in those rankings of adequate, poor, good, or whatever that could use some improvement. So then we talked about the rec center, and then I see the indoor aquatics facility, and I kind of thinking that that'd probably be the same facility, but in the plan it looks like it's kind of treated as different facilities. Is the thinking of it could be jointly, but it could be separate facilities, or just thinking about that in terms of the plan separating them, when I was kind of thinking of them as a same facility.
the reason they're separated is the current aquatic center is aging, and so you've had a lot of really strategic reinvestment in it. But in terms of looking at aquatic facilities planning document, it would look at your current facility, look at what improvements might need to be included in there, and then look to see if there is a need within the community for additional facility, like an indoor pool. And so that's what that study might include. An indoor, an expanded indoor pool or something could be co-located with a community center, rec center, or it could be an improvement to the existing Woodland Park pool where there is a building over, so that's what a study might look at, is all the different options. So that's why we've separated it out, because it's a very unique, actually, and the folks that do aquatic facility studies are unique skill type. So it's a little bit different than the community rec center.
Okay. And I apologize if I'm asking these questions I asked in January. I tried to go back and review some of that video, but I didn't watch it all. Just the appendices weren't included. I assume that's part of the 10% that's missing. We'll get that in.
Yes.
Yes. And then last thing, and this is just an idea I've had to put the bug in the air for future planning, but the trail system down from the park line to Woodland, there's that kind of hilltop that sits above the aquatic center. And one of the things the park line towers, one of the things I think is great about those apartments is the views going out east and northeast must be amazing. And I think it'd be really, I don't think you would need to go very high to get above the trees and be able to see into the park towards the mountains. If we could have kind of like a kind of a circulating up ramp with a viewpoint at the top of that hill that's connected with that trail that goes down and be ADA accessible, kind of going up. I think that'd be a great feature, a selling point to the park line and to Woodland. People come and get their photos, tourist photos with the, mountains in the background and the park and stuff. Anyway, it's just something to maybe look at. That space is empty. It's city owned. It's right there above our Woodland Park. I think that might be a nice feature, so throw that out there. Mr. Dowd?
Thanks. For, we could start doing mobile park events like now. We don't necessarily need the van first, right? We could do it on a trial basis and see if it is going to be popular. And if it is, then we go ahead and look at purchasing a specific vehicle for it. That's just a comment. What fall, winter, spring, when it's still cold, what do we have as far as park activities during those times? Do we have anything for kids? Do we have anything specific that we do?
Yeah, we have a lot of sports programs, so basketball, soccer, dance. So there's a lot of opportunities in the winter. And we, again, part of the partnership is using school district property. So whatever times we can get from them to program out of, we try to incorporate some type of activity.
Okay, but nothing like outdoors, you would say? Other than maybe, well, I don't know, do you guys do the hockey thing or not?
No, hockey's done on their own.
Yeah.
As far as winter type activities, I don't know that we have a whole lot, just because we used to do a couple different things in the wintertime and it wasn't well received as far as support from participants. So it's not to say that we can't look at those past programming practices and see if we can't reinvigorate some of that, but it hadn't been well received in the past.
Okay. And now I want to talk a little bit about the community garden. So the community garden has 26 plots. They're all filled. They've been filled for a few years now. It looks like something that we could expand, and it would be probably successful since it's heavily utilized right now for the little spaces that we have. If you wanted to expand that, would you suggest expanding there, or would you rather open up a second one in a different ward?
Well, ideally, you'd like to spread amenities throughout the community. So, maybe it's close to people walking to a park near their house, and where it's currently located maybe isn't as convenient. So ideally, I think you want to look at dispersing it. But if that wasn't an option, couldn't find the right location for that, by all means, there is enough room there to expand it.
Okay. And we also, I'm actually getting some loaded questions here because we've already talked about this. This is mainly for the rest of the council and the people watching here. There was a park that you identified that was in, I believe it was in Ward 4, that was basically not being utilized at all. In fact, a lot of people don't even know it's a city park. Do you remember that location?
Western Park?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's off of Western Drive.
Yeah. We were talking that might be a good place for an expansion.
It could be. The one complication that it does have is parking. There's really, I would say, one parking spot there. It's more of a dead end area, and it's not. It's hidden, but it is a city park. People are welcome to be there. But yeah, it could be developed more. Currently, we mow it one time a year, and then I would say probably the local community over there utilizes it kind of as an extension of their backyards, meaning they recreate in that area because the creek flows through there.
Great, thank you for that. And also, last thing is, I put the bug in your ear about the possibility of maybe doing a greenhouse at the community garden location that we have now on Liberty Street. I don't think it would be usable like during the heavy winter months, but we could reclaim some of the fall and spring to do some stuff in the greenhouse. Is that something that would, and we also have TIF funding that I found out this is eligible for, right? So would that be something that you think the Parks Department could maintain after it's built and created?
The building? or the
The
program?
greenhouse itself.
Do we have expertise to? Yes, depending on what it needed, it might be more difficult. So understanding that, the program right now is self-sufficient in the sense that we do have a volunteer that runs it, manages it. So it doesn't require a lot of our staff. They also use MCC to pick up the stockpile of weeds and trimmings and stuff. So it does remove us. I think the extent of our labor currently is to summarize and winterize the irrigation that's over there. So again, it would be adding to duties to that area. And I think when we had a conversation, we were talking about maybe looking at getting an organization to kind of take over and building that the gardens out and to utilizing it more as a community gathering point. But I think depending on the size, depending on what it's made out of, I think we could participate in as far as the maintenance of the facility.
Yeah, so I've been reaching out to a bunch of groups here over the past few months, and there's some interest. In fact, with one of the organizations that's I've just started talking to is 4-H, and they are. I don't know if you guys know, but we have like a spectacular 4-H program here in Montana, in Northwest Montana. But anyway, I believe I get private partners, and we may not even have to use TIF funding for this, and we could have it privately be funded. But I just wanted to throw out there some of the things I'm looking at and see if if there's any other ideas that could help out there. But I think we have a small little nugget there that's being heavily utilized that we can expand, and I would love to see it show up in other wards as well, so that people don't have to go specifically to. I think that's Ward 2 that it's in right now. But anyway, just throwing out some stuff about that, and I'll be looking into like maybe some of the cost of a greenhouse just to see how realistic it is or whatever. But we'll be talking about that, and if I find anything out, I'll bring it to council. That's all I had. Thanks.
Just one follow-up question. We do have an awesome 4-H program. I mean, what is our current partnerships with the Extension Office? I mean, 4-H is part of the MSU Extension Office at the county. They would also do Master Gardeners programs and stuff like that. Do we do any partnerships with the Extension Office?
So in the past, Master Gardeners used to participate in our plantings down at Woodland Park, our gardens, as part of their program. So that's been really the extent of it. We've used the Extension Office for their knowledge base, trying to figure things out. But as far as a partnership where it develops a specific program, I don't know that we've had that in the past. But again, anytime there's an opportunity that we can strengthen what we offer to our community through a partnership, it's been one of the things that I think that we've done very successfully.
No, I think that, part of it is, especially with the amount of land that you're managing, being able to have partnerships that help extend that, but also finding those entities that are already within the community is how do we leverage that. I do think that's where I think the challenge with the plan is going to be how to utilize the advisory committee and how to do that, because it's more than just waiting for a partnership just to arrive. It's how to strategically align and really be able to do that to get them all rowing in the same way. So I hope that will be the next thing that we develop and look at.
Mr. Leffridge.
So I understand the rationale for the bifurcation between the rec center plan and the aquatics facility master plan. And council has discussed funding in our upcoming budget for a feasibility study for the rec center. But the need for the master plan for the entirety of the aquatics facility doesn't foreclose
What the existing facilities are available, like at, who's the indoor facility at the, at Summit. Logan Health, which I know was doing some I'm not sure whether they've achieved their improvements, but they were doing fundraising to do improvements there. So looking at that, so it really starts to become how much that would cost. And so combining them together, increases the cost of doing a complete study for those two facilities.
So you would disagree that we would be able to combine those two things inside of the current allocation that we've been considering?
I believe that you would not be able to achieve a feasibility study combining those two together for my understanding is $20,000.
So
I've
you,
had-
okay, all right.
I've had some preliminary discussions with various different consultants about what you could possibly get for $20,000. The first priority that I would see in the scope of work would be a validation of the current plan, the previously prepared plan. So we're taking it off the shelf, taking a look at it. I reviewed it today again. It's got 2 basketball courts. It's got a senior rec center, what that programming is, and then looking at what the Discover Kalispell document did in terms of feasibility. And I'm not sure how much that document costs to prepare to begin with. I would suspect it was more than $20,000. And taking those two and say, okay, validate, what does the community really need? Do we need, and when you start asking that question, you get folks saying, well, we need 2 ice sheets. We need 4 basketball courts. We need an indoor pool. But if you're staying within a rec center with indoor courts, which is a lot of what we heard, then you can say, okay, within the community, what is it that we really want this facility to do? And then you have a list. It's like, okay, we have a plan that has some components. These are the things that we want it to do, and we validated that. And then we determine kind of what the next steps are. It's potentially within the amount of money that you've allocated. You could do a comparison, for instance. Say, okay, other facilities that look like what we would like to see within the state of Montana or in say in North Idaho, Sandpoint just built an indoor recreation center, which is a combination tennis court facility, pickleball. Doesn't have a lot of senior activity, but that was built for like $7.9 million. So you didn't do a comparison, but beyond that, any design or any kind of community outreach in terms of a dedicated survey or a dedicated feasibility would be a little bit difficult to achieve for $20,000. So I've had conversations with a local architect, local engineer on possibility. There has been a lot of work in Kalispell looking at a facility like this on the private side. So there's been a ton of different feasibility studies. So I guess my recommendation on a pathway forward is to take the money that you're thinking of allocating and do a validation study and then bring a bunch of stakeholder groups that have all been thinking about this. And my tally based on conversation today is like there's 4 or 5 different groups that have been thinking about this. Bring them all together and start to figure out, is there a strategic partnership that you can do? So you get you go, this is the facility we'd like to do. These are the people that could participate in it, and then see where that goes. So that's kind of my rough, based upon what I understand and discussions I've had.
I think you're spot on. I mean, I think that it's clearly the best path forward. My concern is just foreclosing the opportunity for an indoor recreation or an indoor aquatics facility. I mean, you certainly look at the survey data,
Right.
That came in, that you did all of that phenomenal work on. It seems a little silly to go back out and ask people if they want those facilities when we've already done just that. And so looking at that and understanding that that is a need and a want in the community, to say that we need an entire other master plan before we consider that as part of this, and bringing these stakeholders together and following the path that you just said, I think would be a little unfortunate. So I'm curious on how we can kind of integrate those things in a productive fashion.
Well, so when I was talking about an aquatic facilities plan, I was looking at your existing facility and then what either potential improvements that are required over the next 20 years and a potential expansion to an indoor aquatic facility. What you could do, although I think you would need to allocate additional funding, is combine a indoor aquatic facility and your recreation center study into one, not look at your existing facility, which would be a pretty expensive study because you want to look at all the systems and everything. There are advantages, and I think you're hinting at this. There are advantages of having them all in one place. One is you've got combined parking, you've got management that could be similar, all of these different things, and it could be what could come out of a bigger study, which would cost a little, would I would suspect cost more, would be a phased approach and identification. The other challenge is finding a piece of property that would be suitable for that big so the property that was identified in the 2008 plan or something like that was about 11 acres. And so various different conversations, we kicked around where we might find 11 acres that might be appropriate for that. Is there opportunity to leverage an existing facility with existing parking so you have shared parking so that you can have some efficiencies in development? Finding an opportunity site that already has existing utilities that are available very close at hand. That feasibility study and site selection is another layer in terms of and adds additional cost to a study as well. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I won't hold you to this, but if we did want to analyze the aquatic facility along with it, what would that cost outlay be? Back in the napkin.
I'm back a napkin, not on the record. Aquatics is a very specialized thing, so I'd say, doing that whole package would be, I'd say $80,000 or $90,000 as a starting point. Again, and especially to do the feasibility. One of the things you want, for example, you go, okay, we want to do an indoor aquatic facility. What does that mean? Does that mean 8 lanes of Olympic-sized pool so that we can do regional competitions? Or is it something less? And that's one of the conversations that you have. That's kind of a collaboration with Discover Kalispell is like, if we have 8 lanes or 10 lanes that are Olympic-sized pool that we can run high-level competitions, how many heads and beds can we get for that facility? And so that, again, that feasibility, those types of studies take quite a bit more effort.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Fisher.
I mentioned this last time, very minor thing, still typos, especially on the name Kalispell, missing an L, 4 or 5 of them. That's all.
Okay. All right. We'll open up to public comment. I will remind folks we do have a 3-minute limit. I'm pretty loose about enforcing that, but ask folks to keep their comments concise and to the point. And please step to the mic, state your name for the record, or raise your hand if you're online.
Colorado was perfect for the small community when we needed a rec center there. Just saying that is the envision of what I see. What I also see here is that parents are taking their kids to hotels. They take them to places, that might not be conducive to having children run around and play. I went to Butte and there was 15 teenagers sitting around a hot tub because they have no water or recreation places in Butte. So Montana, we've had money, we spend it on police officers, we spend it on other things. What we need to do is invest in our children. So I think it's very important that we do put this on the master plan and get a decent-sized recreation center for our children here, okay? One more thing on the master plan, you totally neglected the equestrian people for mixed-use trails. So make sure that, like I said, it took 20 years to connect the ones in Colorado. We could go from the whole western base of the foothills all the way out to the Aurora Reservoir. For those of you who've been there, that's about 45 miles. So, and that was bikes, equestrian, and hiking. So please add the equestrian people in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy.
Hi there, my name is John McDonald. I'm a resident of Kalispell. I'm going to be talking about something a little off topic, but it's kind of important. Here's my request up front so that nothing that follows is a mystery. I want you to pause this line item. 3 things exist in public and a written use policy and a named vendor and retention terms, or remove it entirely and release the records I have requested before August 17th with fees waived, because this is information the whole community needs before that vote, not after it. Everything that I say from here is the case for that one request. I want you to picture something ordinary. A mom driving her kids to Flathead High School in the morning. A retired couple heading to church on Sunday. A guy driving home past downtown at midnight after a late night shift. None of them are doing anything wrong. That is what tonight is actually about. Whether moments like that stay unremarkable in this town or start quietly becoming data. And one twist to hold on to. When this technology misreads a plate for something as simple as an 8 instead of a B, the citation does not go to whoever did something. It goes to whoever the algorithm decided was the closest match, a completely innocent person, and I'll show you how often that has already happened elsewhere. You have all said in writing and publicly that the city has no intention of using flock or fixed cameras. I take that at face value. But the Daily Interlake reported procurement has not started and cannot until this budget is finalized. Councillor Dowd confirmed the same to me directly this week in writing. So as of tonight, there is no vendor, no contract, and no data policy, no retention terms, and that is not an argument for trust. It is the strongest argument for a pause. There is nothing yet to trust. And ruling out one company by name does not rule out the risk. Motorola Solutions, which owns the competing Viligent platform, is facing its own class action lawsuits filed in June alleging the same pattern: unlawful data sharing with immigration agencies, wrongful detentions from error. Whatever vendor is eventually picked, the protection has to live within the written policy, not in a company's name. You have also said that this technology is used elsewhere in Montana without legal challenge. Bozeman, Missoula, and Whitefish. My question is whether those cities' actual written policies have been reviewed here, or only the fact that a program exists. The absence of a lawsuit is not ruling that a practice is constitutional. It is what every city says right up until the first lawsuit, and those lawsuits are happening right now in Norfolk, Virginia, and San Jose, California. And it expands by default. This technology does not stay within its stated purpose. That is a documented pattern, and it has already been visible in this proposal before a single camera is installed. The Parking Advisory Board's own recommendation would let officers issue up to 3 tickets per day, up from the 1 today. The first thing attached to the system already expands enforcement. San Jose started in 2021 with 4 cameras at 1 intersection. It is now nearly 500 cameras citywide, and 3 residents filed a federal class action against this in April, arguing that network makes it functionally impossible to drive untracked. Norfolk, Virginia went from a handful of cameras in 2023 to 176 within 2 years. One plaintiff was logged 526 times in 4 months, just living his normal life. And the judge who upheld Norfolk's system Anyway, still warned that there is as the number and capabilities of these cameras expand, the constitutional balance could tip the other way. Austin, Cambridge, and Flagstaff have all canceled their contracts in just the past several months over these same concerns. Here, the units would ride on 2 patrol vehicles, and the area under discussion includes Flathead High School. The people who park there are teachers, students, and residents. More coverage means more data on ordinary people and more chances for the misread problem I'm about to describe. A study in Vallejo, California found 37% of fixed camera reads and 35% of mobile reads were misreads. A Chicago woman was cited for a car that she never had driven because a 9 was read as a Z. The Institute for Justice has documented at least 27 wrongful stops nationally since 2018. In Aurora, Colorado, a family, including a 6-year-old, were held face down at gunpoint just over a simple misread. The city has settled for $1.9 million. If a mistake happens here, the software does not sit in a courtroom. One of us does. There is an old line from inside IBM, a computer can never be held accountable. IBM's own training concluded a machine should never be handed a management decision. If IBM is that cautious about computers, this council should not be less cautious. $70,000 for software could fund a dedicated human position instead. In 2018, Kalispell's chalk-based enforcement issued more than 6,100 citations in a single year. That is not a broken system. So I'm here asking for the numbers on the record with their edges defined. First, the total year cost and the full ongoing annual cost of this system stated together with exactly what that figure covers: hardware, software, licensing, installation, maintenance, staff time. A number without its scope is not a number. Second, whether that full cost has been compared in writing against a simply funding a position, and if that comparison exists, a commitment to release it before August 17th. Third, City Manager, you have said that enforcement has historically been difficult. The city's own record says that 6,100 citations in 2018. Both of those things cannot be fully true at once. So I would ask you to reconcile on record what changed and where is that documented. Montana law, MCA 46-5-117, requires a written use policy before a plate reader system is activated. I would ask the council to confirm tonight, yes or no, whether such a written policy exists today. The constitutional picture. Since Katz in 1967, a single glance at a plate is not protected. That's not a problem. The problem is aggregation. In Carpenter 2018, the Supreme Court held that police need a warrant for historical location data because it compiles a detailed encyclopedic chronological of a life. Massachusetts High Court applied that logic to plate readers in Commonwealth versus McCarthy in 2020, holding widespread use could violate the Fourth Amendment without saying where that line is. This is exactly why a hard ceiling belongs in writing now before deployment. The leaders of a beautiful struggle versus Baltimore. The Fourth Court Circuit struck down a mass surveillance program on that reasoning. The city settled and destroyed its data, and this is live right now. Last month, in Chantry versus the Supreme Court held 6-3 that police need a warrant for cell phone geofence data. I'll be fair with that picture. A federal court went the other way this year in Schmidt versus City of Norfolk, and that case is on appeal. The law is unsettled. Unsettled is precisely when you do not pour permanent infrastructure into a budget. But Montana does not just borrow from the federal standard. Article 2, Section 10 of our Constitution was written in 1972, and it specifically covered the concerns about increasing technological surveillance, and the Ninth Circuit has called it one of the strongest state constitutional privacy protections in the nation. In State versus Gotrez, our Supreme Court gave the test. Does a person expect privacy? Does Montana society accept that as reasonable, and is the government's interest compelling enough to override it? I want you to apply that honestly here. Is more convenient parking enforcement a compelling government interest? Because I do not believe that this case has been made, and it has been assumed instead. I put the whole argument simply. We do not need to justify our liberty. Government has to either justify its authority to limit it, and a policy on paper does not fully protect against the other risk either. In January, investigators found at least 60 of these cameras nationally sitting exposed on open internet with no password required. Benjamin Franklin said it plainly: those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And I want to address the council directly. Councilor Walker, on July 20th, you said that you are not comfortable with these license plate readers, but as long as we follow all of the policies and procedures we have stated, you could tentatively support them. Tonight, no written policy exists. By the plain terms of your own statement, the consistent position is not tentative support. It is a pause until those procedures exist. I'm asking you to hold you to your line. Mayor Hunter, you have said you believe the department is professional and will follow the law, and that nobody wants a system doing mass surveillance. I believe that you mean both. Both are statements of trust. If the trust is well placed in writing it down as binding policy costs nothing and protects everyone, including the department. To the chief of police, you have said that this system would only be used to track parking. Hold that next to the Parking Advisories Board recommendation to triple daily tickets. If it is only for parking, why does the first thing attached to it already expand enforcement? And to the whole council, I would rather have these questions answered here on the record rather than in a private meeting that has been offered. Not from any doubt about sincerity, but because closed-door conversation does not leave a public one behind it. 7 things, each with a date, to ask. 1, I want you to pause any further funding or procurement until the vendor, the written policy, and the retention terms are public, or remove the line item completely. I want you to confirm tonight, yes or no, simple yes or no, whether a written policy under Montana Code annotated 46-5-117 exists. I want you to name the vendor publicly before any contract is signed. Adopt 4 terms in writing: 24-hour maximum retention for non-violation data, no data sharing with any outside agency without a warrant, a public quarterly report on captures and access, an explicit prohibition on device scanning or linkage to third-party location data. State the full first year and ongoing annual cost on the record with its scope itemized, and release the cost comparison against a staffed position before August 17th. Release the records that I have requested before August 17th with fees waived. As I said, I would file them, and I have. I said I would distribute written questions ahead of tonight, and I did through a council member. Commit that any future expansion of the system requires a new public hearing and a new vote. One last question, answered plainly, on the record, by name, and I want this to be very clear. Is this council comfortable installing a system documented to make mistakes in unsettled constitutional territory to make parking enforcement more convenient? Simple yes or no. I grew up thinking of Kalispell as a place where nobody's watching you, and every city that I've named tonight was a place like this once too. Before the infrastructure went in, this system will outlast every person on this council and every person in this room. The only thing protecting this town's character is the policy you write or you do not write before you spend the money. I want you to go back to that picture from the start. The mom driving her kids to school, the retired couple on their way to church, the guy driving home at midnight. Tonight, every one of those moments is still unremarkable. And that is what makes this place the last best place, and I think that's what it actually means. And I'd rather Kalispell not find out the hard way, the way San Jose and North Fork are finding out right now. But whatever decision you decide on August 17th, I ask that it be decided with all of this actually weighed and not waved off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Good evening. My name is Sue Paulson. I live at 147 Taylor Road in Kalispell. And I'm here to speak about the need, as you heard from the plan, about the maintenance of our parks. I have appeared before this council prior in regards to the start-up of the dog park, which used to be Beg Park. And how I lived in that neighborhood was promised by that developer that there would be a park, and that in 17 years there had not been one park or an improvement in the parks. And that the money that developers supposedly used or gave to the city is money in lieu of a park to support maintenance, is my understanding. And now I live in another section of town, and there is a park, and I've heard discussion tonight about the HOA paying for park upgrades. And I'm here as a representative of just myself, not our local HOA. But it is my understanding, I've been there 10 years, and there has not been one park improvement in 10 years. And when we moved to that development, it was shown to us at an HOA meeting that the HOA park was now a public park, and that there was a plan for improvements, including a pavilion. There's a swing, there's no swings, there's a playground, small playground, and there's a half basketball court. So I would like to emphasize the need in this master plan and support what a couple of the counselors said tonight, that a specific plan for improvements to the park, timing, and what will be done and the costs should be available to the council to help them make their decisions about improving the parks. And when I was before the council, in regards to the dog park, one of the reasons that was given at that time that it was not improved was that nobody uses that park. And some other nearby residents had indicated that there were drug activity or something going on because the park wasn't ever used. And my point at that time was if the parks were improved and maintained, there would be more use. Now, with the local park that I have now, I have been over there on a Tuesday and Thursday when a young mothers group is meeting. Some of the young mothers pull weeds from the playground area so that it's safer for the kids to play. Chips were just delivered to the park, so some of the weeds are covered up. But I took pictures today of the condition of the park, and yes, a new table was brought in. The table is in desperate need of paint. The table that was there still has the old hole in the middle. It's not usable. And the park bench is barely usable. There's no shade, so that if you are a young mother wanting children to play on the playground, there's no place to sit in the shade or have multiple activities going on. So I would ask the council to strongly support a more definite mechanism of ensuring that parks, all 14 that I read, I've read the entire report, and it's a very thorough report, and having worked in government for many years, I know how these things go. But I would like to see that a specific maintenance plan is set out, the cost is set out, and then a timeline so that there's more definition as to what parks need the maintenance, when it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And can you clarify which park you live near by now that you were referring to?
I don't know if it has a name. I live in Westview Estates.
Westview
And it's got, the park was, it's my understanding, the park was, in 2008, was originally going to be a HOA park, but there's a city well on the park. And so the developer agreed in some part that it would become a public park and that there would be a joint effort to improve that. But then I guess somewhere along the line there was a mix-up or a discussion about who's doing what. And essentially the playground is there, there's a well and there's a building there that's supposed to have bathrooms but it's never been opened. And there's a half-size basketball court there. And nice fields if you could run in the fields, yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it's got potential, but I know I've been to all the parks. So I've been doing my research, and I know that there's a lot to be done. And I've been here 26 years, and all I'm asking is that somehow this money in lieu of parks isn't enough money for maintenance, or however it's going to get done, that the plan, whatever we adopt, is more specific, and we can say, well, yes, we have this, and yes, we have that. And I know the Bibblers are supporting, the Bibblers and Rotary and one other group are supporting the new park. It's great. I know the Chamber supported the park, what's it called? The park.
Parkline Trail.
Parkline Trail, and it's great. There are great things going on. But these little neighborhood parks where moms can bring their children for, an hour or a half hour of play, or older people can sit on a park bench, currently in no place to sit. Those things can help involve more community members, and the more community members using the parks, the better they'll be kept up. So it's kind of a roundabout thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, if you're online, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We do have an echo. If you wanted to mute, I see you're logged in twice. Is there a way to mute the second?
I can't see myself logged in twice. Is there? Hold on.
We had an echo last week too, so I just wanted to see if you could.
Darn it. Let me see if I can change my volume. Is it any better?
Can you talk again?
Oof. Is it any better? No.
No, sorry.
Let me see. Well, it's okay. I'll go ahead and, because I've turned everything off. And I'm on a different computer, so I don't understand.
It sounds all right. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
We'll hear you in stereo.
Just a moment. While there is interest in updating the Parks and Recs master plan, it's important to recognize that not all residents are willing or able to take on additional tax burdens. Any proposal that could increase taxes should be decided by the community as a whole. Placing the issue on a ballot gives voters the opportunity to clearly express their priorities, ensure fiscal responsibility, and strengthens public trust in the process. Before spending taxpayer dollars, let the people decide. Many of the families and individuals who have lived here for decades are facing real financial pressure. Prioritizing the preferences of newcomers while overlooking the needs of long-term residents can create an imbalance that erodes trust and strains the very foundation of the community. Before adopting plans that could raise taxes or redirect public funds, leaders should consider the financial realities of those who have been here through good times and hard times. Respecting their limits isn't resistance to progress, it's responsible stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Provencio. Okay, seeing no further public comment. Acting City Manager report.
I don't have much for you tonight, other than to say that Jared will be back next week. If you have any major pressing questions, please get them to me. If they can wait until next week, I would prefer that. Thank you.
And council reports, we'll start with you, Mr. Walker, or Ms. Gabriel, if you have anything.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just want to thank Parks and the architect again for all the work they're doing on the Parks Master Plan. Looking forward to seeing some hard numbers so we can make some better planning for the future. And then I'll just say that we are following the process for our license plate reader
acquisition. We haven't even begun to look at vendors yet, so it's impossible to give accurate quotes. We don't even know what we're talking about. But a policy will be in place before we purchase anything.
Again, just thanks to staff for pulling together and the consultants to be able to pull together the Parks and Rec plan. I think that we heard some really good comments today of just how important parks are to our community. I somebody who moved here long enough, and I think a lot of people who have been around long enough, one of the beauties of living in the Flathead was access to a lot of our public spaces. But I believe as we get busier and just driving around Kalispell today, people start to appreciate these internal spaces even more. And especially on a smoky day like today, I think that that's just another example of why I'm very supportive of looking at some sort of rec facility, because it's now just not just extreme winter events. There's some of these extreme summer events where I know people are looking for a safe place to walk and exercise, grandparents and the grandkids. So just sort of point out that that's just one of those things that as we grow, I think we have to do that, and I do appreciate that we talked about finding a fiscal roadmap to be able to do that, so that we're not putting it onto the tax burden. But I think that it's going to be the challenges, but I do believe it's one of those challenges of growth that we're facing so importantly right now, to be able to have these internal spaces in our own city limits that people are able to walk to, because I drove north of town, and with all the construction on Reserve and all this new development that's happening, it just makes it a lot harder to have that access to trails that just sort of felt like our backyard before. So thank you again for the staff for the leadership of that, but hopefully have a good plan to move forward with.
I believe Mr. Nunley would have done this, so I'll do it instead in his absence. But I wanted to give a big shout out to Justin Turner for winning the Montana Officer of the Year. Jack wrote a great story highlighting his career, and it just is demonstrative of the integrity and the quality of KPD. So please give our best to Mr. Turner, and thank you, Chief, for all of the work you do in the leadership of your department.
Of course, thanks. Thank you. Just a little motivational talk about parks, and when you get that special person or group behind you. Volunteer Park in Lakeside, many of you have probably been there. It was a rundown hotel, 4 or 5 different homes on the property. Flathead County was given that park at about a $20 million build out with somebody that just got interested and planned to have more lake access. They saw something missing in the lakeside area. The goal at that time was to have something every 7 miles up the river and more access for the public that didn't be so fortunate to own lakefront property, and turnkey given to Flathead County. They felt that we could manage it properly, and I believe they continue to do that. That is certainly my hope with a good plan for a facility, specifically an indoor recreation facility, that once we identify the cost, we certainly know it's not something that the taxpayers are probably going to want to do on their own. But I believe with these 4 or 5 other facility studies that are out there, Flathead County did one. I think several private people have done them, to get the right group of people together. I think we'll get this moving forward. If somebody has to take the lead, and it's been talked about for 10 or 15 years, the need is there for both seniors and children. And I think spelling this out with hard costs and a plan gives something for people to look forward to and actually move this forward for this community, because it's long overdue. And I hope that's our ultimate outcome of this. And thank you for the report. I didn't mean to bash it. I wanted to see hard numbers in the land purchased is what I wanted to see. And here's where we're building as soon as we get the donation. I'm kidding you. Thank you.
I have a few things. I'll try to be really quick here. I believe the public comment tonight was about Westview Park, Mayor Hunter. At least that's what Google told me. Okay. I wanted to talk briefly about El Nino years here in Montana. I don't know if anybody realizes it, but this one is going to be one of the most spectacular, maybe most impactful El Nino years we've had in a long time. People are economists worldwide are expecting food shortages to go on all over the globe because of it, which if you compound that with the fiasco of the war in Iran and what that's doing to our food prices, it makes a lot of sense. If you're not already growing your own food, you should really look into doing that. But that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the community garden is it's a place where people that maybe live in an apartment can go grow some food, right? They have a plot of land to use. Real briefly on the license plate readers and what the process looks like for those. We have to have a finalized budget. It needs to be in the budget first. The budget doesn't get finalized till probably our second meeting in August. That's when the budget will be finalized, so no procurement or no investigation into vendors or anything will happen until after that would be in the budget. Next, we need to have the policy written out here for the city of Kalispell because the policy itself is going to determine vendor specifics. And then the installation / demo or whatever it's going to be called, and then activation. So we're looking at that as far as the process goes, if anybody's interested. Last, I want to bring up somebody that continues to really, really inspire me here at the city of Kalispell, and that's our city clerk, Amy. She is doing an amazing job. She runs all these meetings. She does 5 billion things a day. I make one 10-second comment at a council meeting 3 weeks ago, and she's controlling the thermostat. I don't know if you've seen her get up and adjust it.
That's too hot.
That is all Amy. So I just like to really commend her. She takes the public comment that we get, whether it's written or email, and she has to do something to get it posted online. So I don't know if you all know, all that public comment is available. That's all her and her staff. So I just would like to show a little bit of appreciation for our city clerk, Amy.
Yeah.
That's it, Your Honor.
Certainly share that sentiment. Yeah, and also thank you for the plan. We're, a lot of work go into it, and we're almost there, and it's looking good. So to address the license plate readers, I feel like we're addressing it every week here, but a few points I want to make. One is there is valid concern about stuff going on around the country with these AI monitoring systems. And I share those concerns. And certainly I think other cities absolutely are in a place where they need to be pulling back of what they're doing and the monitoring they're doing and that sort of thing. That's not what is being proposed here. There was in public comment, there was a reference to a license plate reader getting a number wrong and resulting in pulling somebody over who shouldn't be pulled over. These license plate readers aren't going to result in anybody being pulled over. That's not how they're being used. So I think there's a misunderstanding of what the proposal is. We have a very small, limited use that we are proposing for these. It will be based on a policy. Mr. Dowd, thank you for that process outline. I think it is important to highlight that approval in August of the budget just authorizes the funding. It does not spend the funding. We have in the past allocated money for something and not spent it. So we could decide not to spend it if, for some reason we decided we didn't find the right vendor or we aren't, policies, police procedure policies do not come before council. So I think there's enough interest in this that we will, hear from the chief kind of what that policy looks like and stuff, but it's not something that gets voted on. That's an internal process. But, we won't, if there's not satisfaction with what that policy looks like, we can pull back. So, that August approval of budget is not the end all be all in terms of this. So, thank you for the comment about the Westview Estates Park. I'd like to look into that, see if there's anything more that needs to be done, or if we even have jurisdiction on that park. And I also would like to congratulate Officer Turner. I saw that article as well. Sounds like he had a very difficult experience, but handled it with resiliency and a well-deserved award. So my congratulations to him, and just truly shows the professionalism of our department. And then last thing is I am leaving on a long-planned vacation starting this weekend, and so I will be out for 3 meetings. So I will be gone for a while. Council President Waterman will be stepping in my stead, running the meetings. So it is not great timing for being away, but it never is, and trying to get a vacation in. So I will get an update when I get back, and I wish you all well for the next 3 meetings. And with that, we're adjourned.
We have to get how he's gonna vote on it.